and we are excited to bring you today's conversation on creating future utilities through the power of digitalization. And who better to talk about digitalization and digital transformation than the leader in digital transformation, Siemens Technology Services India? And they insist that transformation is not the end goal, but a continuous journey that we transform every day. But if you don't believe me, here's a short video of showing you what it is when you transform every day. Give me a minute when I play. It's truly inspiring every time I play that video, and I'm sure everyone believes the same. So I'm Suman Bhaumik, your host for the series, and I lead the events development for the IET in India. And before we begin our session, please allow me to also take a couple of minutes to tell you a little bit about the Institution of Engineering and our session today. So the IET, also known as the Institution of Engineering and Technology, is a 150 years old organization inspiring, informing, and influencing the global engineering community to engineer a better world. As a diverse home across engineering and technology, we share knowledge that helps make better sense of the world to solve the challenges that matter. At IIT India, we want to grow actionable knowledge, want to solve India-centric engineering issues, and want to enhance people's lives using technology and thought leadership to drive innovation. I have a short video with me which talks about what the IIT is and what it is to become part of the IIT family.
Our world is changing.
Engineering is changing.
Society is changing.
We are changing.
We're here to inspire,
Inform.
Influence.
And change perceptions.
Demonstrating how important engineers and technicians are in our lives.
Championing achievements.
Helping to create new technologies that enable us to thrive.
And inspiring future generations to make a difference.
Together, we discover new concepts by turning theory into practice.
Create solutions to society's biggest challenges.
Share knowledge and expertise through our networks.
Grow by developing new skills and capabilities.
Evolve and adapt for the future.
We are the IET.
Together, we are engineering a better world.
think Suman, you are muted. Sorry.
I told you that this will be some kind of an issue every time we do this session. Thank you for that. Now, I was saying if you want to get in touch with us and understand how you could be part of the IT to explore our membership and volunteering opportunities, you could, visit our website, and also you could watch all our past events if you visit our YouTube page and see all the on-demand events there. Now, coming to the digital conversation today, which is more like a leadership panel discussion, which is moderated by Siemens Advanta and digital leaders from Siemens as well as utilities. We will hear from them on why digital transformation is an imperative and not just a talking point. We'll discuss about the triggers, the drivers, and the mega trends. We will look at the pace and adaptability, also focusing on few impactful business cases before we discuss the challenges faced by utilities in moving towards digitalization and the opportunity it presents. So let's dive right into the discussion by introducing these leaders who have been kind enough to join us today. Introducing our first speaker, Amit Arora, who is a seasoned professional with extensive experience in the smart grids and energy domain. He has established and led large software product development teams in both onshore and offshore locations at Siemens. Amit currently heads the smart grids and infrastructure business at Siemens Advanta India and leads an 800 plus member team that is engaged in core product development and innovation for smart grids. He is passionate about driving solutions to make the power grid cleaner and greener. Our second speaker is Udayan Ganguly, who comes with over 3 decades of power distribution utility experience with CESC Limited, currently the general manager in charge of the verticals of metering, distribution automation, testing and commissioning of electrical plant and equipment, condition monitoring interventions, and business intelligence and analytics. He is a member of the Electro-Technical Division ET13 Committee of the Bureau of Indian Standards, having contributed actively in formulation of the world's only smart meter standard IS 16444. Udayan is a regular guest speaker for IIT Kharagpur, Jalasur University, NIT, and Durgapur students on smart grid, delivering talks as industry expert on behalf of USDTA, USEA, Power Africa, EMA in the country and abroad. Coming to our third speaker is Mr. Rajesh Sharaf, who is the head of IT from Torrent Power, possessing 31 years plus experience of progressive leadership delivery in diverse domains, including utility, manufacturing, infrastructure, and telecom industries. He's experienced in business analytics, sales and marketing, key account management, business intelligence, and customer service and client retention with understanding of business and customer journey. He has successfully established IT infrastructure for selected products and enterprise architecture, also negotiating with a lot of vendors, finalizing outsourcing tasks and service level agreements. Thank you so much, speakers, for joining us today. Now, coming to our moderator, Unni Krishna Pillai, who is the head of Digital Engineering Solutions at Siemens Advanta Development India. Leads digital engineering solutions for energy and utilities, with Siemens Technology and Services responsible for the portfolio management, value creation, digital innovation, strategic planning, and optimization of enterprise digital services. He comes with 20 plus years of IT experience with research and development, digital transformation, innovative cross-functional team building for multiple portfolios like intelligent traffic systems, offshore wind power services, digital solutions for energy and hybrid plant modeling. I will request you only to start this session now, and I'll be around if you need me.
Thank you very much, Suman, and very good afternoon to all the speakers and the people who joined online. Very delighted to be part of these industry leaders here, and let's hope that the next 60 minutes we'll be having very interesting discussion on a very hot topic, that is towards digitalization, creating utilities of the future. So let me just kick off the discussion with the concept all of us know, Industry 4.0. So when everybody is talking about Industry 4.0, the key points there is digitalization or digital transformation in the industry areas. Now, if you look into the need of digitalization of all the industries, that is inevitable, including utilities and energy. Now we are living, eating, sleeping with the word, the digitalization or digital transformation. So let me just set the context with respect to the utilities specific topic of digital transformation. If you look into the utility sector, marked by four growing trends in digitalization. Say if you look into electrification, digitalization, decarbonization, and decentralization. At the same time, what are the focus areas for these trends? The four key pillars or the focus areas. One is technology, second is data, third is process and people, last but not least, the organizational change. So, in the next 60 minutes, let's map the discussion, or let's slides down the discussion to four clusters: the mega trends, what is happening in utility sector, some of the business use cases, because we also need some level of testimony, and then the emerging business models around this, and last but not least, the challenges and opportunities. So with keeping this context, maybe let me just kick off the session with Rajiv, you. So if you look into Torrent Power, it is an integrated power utility with business focus of generation, transmission, distribution, and supply of power cables. So in general and specific to Torrent, what are the triggers and drivers of digital journey you are noticing? Rajiv, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Undi. I think, irrespective of torrent, you rightly said that every industry is trying to use the technology because of this hypercomputing, mobile penetration, connectivity, and all the stuff, and then the data availability, data speed, and analytics, and all this. So torrent is also not aloof from this, and even that all the utility industry is not aloof from this. See, if we really look at these are the technology-driven trends, but at the same time, if we really look at the trends which are driven into the utility industry, are like EV industry, which is coming up, the cars which nobody was thinking before few years that there will be EV-driven cars, and the customer who are right now only consuming electricity, and they are being billed only for the consumption. They will be also one of the person driving the car using the electricity for the charging, and then at the same time, if he has got surplus of the electricity, he will also feed into the grid. So that is adding to the complexity of the technical as well as commercial landscape of the entire distribution. Along with this, if we really look at the trends into the smart meter and the trends of the smart grid, which are also driven by the government, plus some of the commitment into the renewable energy, which everybody is a global view all are seeing. So these all are driving the various trends, and then it is making the technology landscape a bit complex. Everybody has to understand how the things will work going forward, whether the current infrastructure, current systems which are in place are agile enough to take care of those things. So these are all triggers which are driving the digital landscape, specifically in utility industry.
Excellent, Rajiv. So if you look into consumer is also part of the life cycle now, yeah, because
Absolutely.
consumer is actually he's fully part of the new energy life cycle or the energy management system. It's a key point. Let me come back to you maybe as part of the business model. Let's discuss a little bit more about that. Now, maybe Udain, to you, if you look into CESC Limited, the old name like Kolkata Electricity Supply Company, the company started sometime in 1897, and sustainability is a key because it's a traditional company. Yeah, if you look into sustainability point of view, the three phases. So one is like digitization, that is fixing the past. Then you have digitalization. You need to look into the present problems and fix it or not fix it, you take it forward. Last but not least, digital transformation, that is very key because you need to look into future, yeah, future centric. So a company which is more than 150 years old, and sustainability is a key. What are the mega trends you are experiencing in the last 5 years in general to utility domain and specific to CESC Limited?
Good afternoon and thank you. Actually, mega trends it's different from different perspective, and there are many mega trends. But I will focus on a subset that I feel is important for the context. Now, this 24 into 7 uninterrupted quality, reliable power and its affordability has become a cliche. But still I'm mentioning this as a mega trend just because the sensitivity, the heightened awareness and the expectation of the customer over the years have increased. Now, even a domestic consumer, if the power is off for 5 minutes, they are calling us up. In the factories and the commercial establishments, there are sensitive equipments these days which are so much voltage sensitive. So if there is a voltage issue and I am unable to mitigate that, then I have to replace the DT also, if so be it. So the overall sensitivity has increased, and people are now aware what is reliability, what is quality, what is the affordability, and in tune and in sync with that, we have to change. And for me, this is the single most driver that as a private utility, irrespective of government interventions and others, we have thrived over the years and continually improved ourselves, innovated to stay relevant in the context. The second part is obviously well known: stress on cost. There's increased stress on cost, efficiency improvement, I touched upon the point, and there is an increased need to be fast in delivery. So I had seen days when this very own company, if there is a supply outage in my home, if I could not log a complaint at maybe by 5 o'clock in the morning, I would miss the first shift. It would get repaired in the second shift. Now things are changed. People are expecting a turnaround time of maybe 30 minutes to get their supply restored. I mean, this is the current expectations. With time, this is going to change. So how we respond to a customer, these are all shaping the way we are working. So these are mega trends for me as well. The third is proliferation of renewables. I think every one of us are quite appreciative of the fact this is something we must embrace and we move forward. Whatever corrections we need to do, we need to do. So that's very simple. So getting to the other aspect, yes, there has been sweeping changes in the electricity metering field. This is more granular, but I feel considering the investment and other things and the drive from the Ministry of Power and the utility and the regulators, this has become a big trend, and it will trigger lots and lots of other things having far-reaching ramifications in the future. Then again, yes, we used to be more dependent on skills. We used to depend on the lineman for his expertise. It was more people dependent. Now it's getting slowly and slowly data driven. So decision making, sir, are now data driven, objective. You are collecting data, you are analyzing data, you are getting insights, you are doing the action on the site. So these are something that's very relevant, and this is the way to move forward. And this has really pushed us into the digitalization journey, to be quite honest. Then we have also energy markets, a renewable purchase obligation coming in for utilities. We have to buy a certain percentage of our power before we distribute from the renewable sources. Then we also have the green energy market. So these are trends. Then also, it's unprecedented the way the regulations are being changed, notifications are being saved every morning, and even on Sundays the Ministry of Power is working. I mean, that's a reality. We are really grappling to understand what the changes in the regulation is happening, and at the same time we're trying to adapt and adopt to the extent possible. So the government is pushing reforms, and the two primary objective is it should be customer facing, and they are pushing us on the customer facing approaches, newer approaches, and improving our operations. So, great work being done by the Ministry of Power. And also, an important trend is that the discoms are slowly limbering up to the prospect of improving operations. Yes, they are also responding based on their pain and gain triggers. This is important. They are now approaching it from the pain and gain points and taking recourse to technology adoption and digitalization. And to be very honest, it's a fact that competition is round the corner. This is also an important trend that we can see. And with competition, we are opening up to more opportunities. That's also important. Uh, these are some of the mega trends I wanted to highlight. But along with this, I still feel there are certain smoke signals that we need to be aware of. Otherwise, this might be, again, bigger trends which could lead us to some sort of difficulty as utilities progress down the line. Now, important fact is various discoms in this country are at various levels of maturity. Most private discoms have begun their reforms journey, irrespective of the government push or the regulatory push, long before. For us, it's true. For Torrent, it is true. And they are on a path of continual improvement. So that has happened over the years. So they have progressed in certain areas. SCADA we have introduced in 1990s. So you see, and it has undergone two changes. So we are due for another change. So nobody told us to install SCADA. We thought it's right. We have to move there. Now, the important thing is that if you are now rolling out a lot of options, that you have to do smart metering, you have to do SCADA, you have to do GIS, you have to do blah, blah, blah. They're all a bouquet of technology offerings are there. But the discoms need to be able to pick and choose those technology suited to their levels of maturity so that they're able to handle it as per requirement, because ultimately it is the customer who pays in a way. If there is no value, then obviously it would be a little difficult to handle, I mean, collectively. So this is one area. So this is a concern that when we move forward, we better be careful on that. The other thing is technology. Yes, we are talking of technology. The OEMs are ready with technology. While implementing this technology, we take recourse to system integrators or service providers. We take help of the OEMs. These are absolutely fine. But as long as the utility personnel, the utility team, do not deep dive and embrace the technology will not deliver its full potential. So when we are at the cusp of this change, this technology, digitalization, let's be aware of this fact that this can be a major trend of a failure should there be a failure. I pray then there is no failure in future, because we have seen the RAPDRP, we have seen the APDRP before that. We know to what extent technology has been adopted. So it's as if I have visited various utilities, also state utilities to be precise, where SCADA they have implemented, but that's running separately. But they are doing a primitive way of managing systems. So this is something. The other third smoke signal is that the government is correctly laying importance on IT capacity building in the discoms towards handling technology and adoption and digitalization through various guidelines and regulations. We better watch out on this, because capability building is extremely important. We'll falter miserably if we are not really providing for this. Thank you for now.
Thanks, Sudan. I think you touched upon a lot of points, and the customer is demanding very important point. Yeah, and end of the day, the customer is paying, and your capex or opex all depends on let it be the normal consumer or let it be industrial consumer. It all depends on them, and the technology is very important. You mentioned technology with a purpose, that is important. At the same time, how the organization change or the people within utilities, how they are pursuing this technology and implementing and taking it forward. Very valid point. And let's come back to the smoke signals or challenges bit later. Yeah, we have a session. And let me just come back to you, Amit. So if you look into Siemens Advanta, a digital technology enabler and leader for most of the sectors, let it be industries, energy, mobility, or all that sectors. Now, Amit, as a digital transformation partner for utilities, what are the business drivers and technology trends you are engaged?
Thank you, Uni. First of all, I'm audible. I hope I'm audible. Can you
Yes.
confirm? Okay. Thanks, Uni, and good afternoon to everyone. And thanks to Suman and IIT for having me on the panel. So, taking forward what Rajiv and Udyan have already touched upon on the trends, if we just step back a little and look from the 30,000 feet, I think what we are seeing is a fundamental shift in the way power is generated and consumed. From a few large, mostly fossil fuel generated power plants and the unidirectional flow of power. So far, what is evolving is a far more decentralized distributed generation, which is driven, of course, by renewables like solar and other renewables. So this has a huge impact on the grids of how they need to be managed, operated, and more importantly, how they need to be planned for the future expansion, keeping all these trends in mind. Right. So this is one of the mega trend, which definitely is going to have a huge impact on the what we are seeing in terms of the changes occurring. Uh, another and just to talk a little bit more on that now, what are the kind of questions which utilities are asking on this, right? This forces utilities to step back from what they have been working on so far traditional way, and look at that, how do I respond, for example, to the multiple requests from the all the DERs, distributed energy resources, which are evolving, which are increasing day by day, right? Then how do I plan my grid for the future, keeping those in mind? So these are some of the questions which are emerging. And the second trend definitely is in terms of the EV adoption, I would say the electrical vehicle adoption. So, and that poses a challenge on the consumption side. As the EV penetration increases, and we'll talk about that. I think this is increasing. This is just at the cusp of a uh, big penetration in the coming years. So as this increases, then how do we manage on the consumption side, because this is very unpredictable, and the whole load pattern is are still evolving. We have the load patterns for the the regular consumption, but this EV is going to pose a big challenge, right? So these are the two trends at a very high level. If we look at in terms of the distributed generation, which is exploding, and the EV adoption. Coming to the technology side, what how this is impacting the overall solutioning and technology. If I look at the solutioning side, what we are doing, we're moving towards more modular solutions. So having large monolithic solutions which are developed over years and which are customized to a specific utility for doing, the solving their specific problems. I don't think those are will stay relevant for solving these problems, right? So what we are moving towards are more microservices based architecture, and using technologies like containerization, so that whatever we develop can be deployed across different platforms seamlessly, or with very little changes, and we don't work on a large monolithic solutions. So this is one trend in terms of technology. When we talk of solutioning, specific about talking about specific technology, I think utilities, as we all know, they have a large amount of data, which it's a process data for monitoring, it's excess asset data for regulatory purposes, and what we need is uh, something to make sense of this data, to convert that to information and actionable insights. So what we are investing on in the machine learning, where we can develop certain models capitalizing on this huge amount of data which most utilities have at their disposal, and use it for, as I said, more profitable actionable insights. For example, how can we do a far more accurate short-term load forecasting using this, especially in the context of the renewables? Then how can we use it for predicting power quality issues based on this data? So these are some of the use cases where machine learning can be used, and we are investing in that. Our teams are working on developing some algorithms and models to bring sense out of this data, which utilities can work on. So these are some of the technology trends we are working on.
Excellent, Amit. Thank you. So I think you touched upon the business trends and technology trends. In fact, e-mobility is a key point, and it is growing, and it is a focus point going forward, I'm quite sure. Let me just come back to you, Amit, again. What let's slice it down a little bit, or let's unpack. What is the pace of technology adaptability, in which these disruption you talk about, machine learning, and you talk about the power quality issues with respect to the data driven approach, we can solve a lot of these problems. So what is the pace of technology adaptability in which these disruptions are happening in this utility sector? Amit, could you please unmute?
Sorry. Yeah. So I was saying, only before we talk about the pace, again, I would like to highlight the nature of these changes. I think we need to, really understand, and I want to focus on these are really disruptive changes.
Yep.
If we compare with other industries, for example, telecom, I mean, the real disruptive change was when they moved from fixed to mobile telephony, right? That was real disruption. And now what is happening is more incremental in terms of 2G, 3G, 4G speeds, etc. But these changes of distributed generation and EV mobility, I think they are going to fundamentally change. So they are really truly disruptive. I think we have to acknowledge that. And now the pace of this is directly driven by the targets which each country is setting themselves for, for the climate changes. And as a result, each company, of course, that target comes down to all the companies operating in those countries. So just to give you certain statistics there, we know that EU has set a target of zero emission by 2050. And in India has set a very ambitious target of 30% of all passenger vehicles, not commercial, but passenger vehicles sold by 2030 will be electrical vehicles, right? And another very aggressive target which India has set is for increasing the renewables fivefold. I think right now we have about 100 gigawatt of installed capacity, and taking it to 500 plus again within a decade. So this gives a clear idea of what kind of pace all these changes need to be adapted to. I think we have just started. I think this is just the very beginning, and in this decade, we will see this pace accelerating very fast. And in terms of technology adaptability, I think case in point is EV, again, the electric vehicle adaptability, which is going to happen. I think the true disruptions happen when changes in different but related fields come together. Again, to give an example from outside our industry, when take an example of a smartphone, an iPhone. So when did iPhone happen? When the changes in, for example, lithium-ion battery, camera, display technology, storage, digital imaging, all of that reached certain inflection point. They were mature enough. The iPhone happened. And if we take the similar model into our industry in the context of electric vehicle adoption, I think right now all the batteries, the cost of the battery, the charging speed, and the readiness of the grid to adapt to the electric vehicle charging. So these are all developing very fast. And once they reach an inflection point, which is not far, I think this is going to leapfrog. The adoption of electrical vehicles is going to leapfrog. Just to give one statistics there, the cost of battery for electric vehicles has dropped from $1,200 per kilowatt hour to $137 per kilowatt hour in last 10 years. And the inflection point is $100. And the forecast for that is 2023, which is just about a year away. So once we cross $100 per kilowatt hour battery cost, I think the economy wise, this will be far economical than the IC engines. And then you can imagine the pace after that, because everyone is waiting. Economy at the end of the day is the the basis for all decision. Once we breach that, I think it's going to accelerate. So we are seeing pretty, I think the scale we have not yet seen. My sense is that the changes or the pace of all this adaptability and adoption, especially of all the technologies, I think this decade is looking very exciting to me.
Excellent. Thanks, Amit. I think we are proud and we are happy that we are living in this decade, because a lot of disruptions are happening in this decade. As you rightly mentioned, a lot of statistics and ambitious targets across the world, and not only EU or Americas, but even India.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned about the EV vehicles, very encouraging and really looking forward for that. So, Rajiv, like speed and agility, as Udayan mentioned, adaptability is equally important for any transformation, correct? So, what are your inputs there, Rajiv?
Yeah. Only. See, adaptability is the foundation. If you really look at any solution, any technology solution, we try to build upon, and if we don't keep the customer or user into the center, and his adaptability point of view, then any technology solution is not going to be successful. How big it may be, how much money you have spent, but the acceptance will not be there, and then you will not reap the fruit of the implementation. So adaptability is the core of the any solution implementation. But let me tell you one thing: in utility industry, till now, major focus was on meter to cash processes, and in that the adaptability was on the business side of the utility business, and the customer where the billing and meter reading and everything happens. But very, very, very limited use of the technology, except the SCADA, like Amit and Odin rightly said, SCADA and DMS were implemented in some of the utilities for the operation point of view, and asset management kind of thing. Something was being done. But now the way the technology is coming up, and Amit rightly mentioned, the solution providers, the OEMs, are now using the IT methodology of delivering the solution. See, earlier when the solutions were given, it was only considering OT perspective, knowing that only the person is going to operate it, and then whatever is required, he will get trained, he will work in front of his machine, and then only within that segment he will work. But now the way the technology is being used, the foundation or the principles of IT, wherein Kubernetes, virtualization, and all the stuff like OT/IT integration kept in mind, so that the adaptability of the solution is across the ecosystem, not restricted to the few people who are sitting in front of the machine. So that is one of the important trend which I am saying. And another thing, if we did look at the way all of us are becoming familiar with using Facebook or WhatsApp or any of the technology or banking application. So if we really look at the user's perspective, users are becoming familiar with using various IT solutions. They do not require to be trained so much. We only need to provide them that platform and solution so that it becomes easy. But important point is that graphic user interface, the data, whatever information we are providing, all the things should be really useful to the user who is going to ultimately use it. So once again, coming back to your main question, only adaptability and the user has to be at the center of any solution implementation. Without that, nothing can be successful.
Exactly. So well said, Rajiv. I think adaptability and users are interlinked. That is very important. And you rightly mentioned about some of the key points with respect to the IT OT combination also will rule going forward. Amit mentioned this decade is very important for a lot of disruptions. OEMs, utility company, everybody, we should be prepared for that. And very, very interesting topic. Maybe Uday, let me come back to you. You mentioned about the operational topic also. Yeah, the operational cost is very important in this time, because SCADA implementation, let it be DMS, a lot of things are coming into picture. At the same time, we are pushing that to the customer at the end, and obviously they are going to pay. Yeah, but we also need cost effective solutions. Yeah, now how these disruptions are supporting the operational efficiency and and ease of use in your perspective.
Let me go back to my younger days when I was doing HT metering and high-end bulk LT metering for various consumer segments. Being in metering, there were days, there were rampant pilferage cases. So I still recollect, any day I would go to site, I would catch 4 or 5 HT consumers stealing electricity, either through spurious sales or maybe tampering sales or whatnot. So yes, I still remember those days in 2000, early, or maybe a little earlier than that, when our loss figures, the distribution loss figures, were definitely at around 24%. So now it is close to 7%. So all this journey has happened through the digitalization process. We replaced all those very good electromechanical meters I can name, Landis and Gear, in one go. And at that point of time, we introduced the electronic meters. And from day one, we started taking readings of these meters through MRI, and we analyzed the data. And at that point of time, there was no DLMS ICS in India. So every generation of meter, every make of meter had different data structures, how to analyze the data. But we stuck to one make, one solution with backward compatibility, and we ensured that analysis is there, and we pinpointed cases, went to site, rectified those, caught those crooks and booked them. So this was the process we have done over the years. Over the years now, long back, I don't recollect a single HT consumer is stealing now, or an LTCT consumer, a bulk consumer is stealing now. In the whole current segment, we have done a similar exercise, not to that extent, because availability of data is an issue. But then again, now with such low loss levels, we are at some identified pockets. We have identified pockets of loss. So this we are aware, but there are other beyond utility scope. There are other avenues where we need to really pursue to get those things set right. But even there also, we are introducing innovative ideas. In case of overhead systems, we are keeping them underground so that tapping hooking is difficult. Where it is underground, tapping hooking is there, we are bringing it up with ABC cables. So these are methods we have been doing, and digitalization, data analysis has been the core. This is one example. Then again, CapEx and OpEx optimization initiatives are going on all across. I'll give you just one example. Maybe I'll elaborate later. The transformer DT metering, this has transformed that entire process, the way we manage our network, the LT network in CESC. We used to procure around 450 new DTs each year on year, round about that. With this method and with the approach that we had provided, given an opportunity, I'll explain, we could bring it down to the levels of maybe around 30-40 DTs a year. Think of the savings that we are incurring. So, and year on year, and there are other impacts also that we have done. And that is also based on riding on data analytics and etc. Then there is a shift. We are the first ones to introduce condition-based monitoring for our upstream networks, means 33 kV and above, and also downstream. Even downstream, we are still perhaps one of the first to go ahead, still continue with the downstream methods. We have with thermographic scanning, we are identifying hot spots and rectifying it before they are actually there is a breakdown. We are sensing the partial discharges in the insulation system, and we are rectifying things in advance. So this is made a sea change in the performance, that the breakdowns have reduced. So the OpEx is getting optimized. Then speed of operations. I told you of the SCADA. From day one, we thought about operations also. It's not about remote situational awareness. It's also about operation. And we used to do remote operations. Think of a situation when people used to really go around, if a feeder is a faulty feeder, to every node, electrical node, transformer, consumer premises, and then check, test, and find out which is the faulty section before they can restore the supply. The amount of time is required in a busy city. So now with SCADA, with remote connectivity, you can switch off, switch on. So these are certain things we have been doing, and we have added on to that as well. So since 1990s, we have been doing that. So we have opened virtual offices, chatbots, etc. So that's also digitalization, empowering the customer. You need not come to our office. The footfalls should limit, and we should get better service at a faster rate. Field force automation is a significant move that we've taken. Inspection. Our meter inspections are quite intensive, in the sense that a lot of checking, a lot of data, a lot of other things are required. So we had approached initially. This is also an innovative thought. We had approached OEMs also to give us a field force automation solution. But then again, we found that it's difficult to customize. Then again, the OEM given solution also, you need to align to that, and your processes also to that. So it's better to develop one. We developed in-house, and that's a fabulous system, a very elaborate system. So this field force automation for inspection has really transformed the inspection area. I mean, we have total visibility of a particular case, how much it is delayed, who is handling it, what is the results. So you need not come to the site also. If there's an urgent case, we're giving. So you know the benefits of field force automation. Let's not get into that as well. And riding on data analysis and advanced analytics, we are managing to lower our carbon footprint. I mean, if there is a customer complaint, we have an analytics system. We have a EIML based model developed, and we know which all meters to be inspected, which not. So you see the number of inspections, because we have seen that around 75% of complaint based inspections are absolutely futile. The meters are not effective. So this is how these are some of the many use cases over the years that we have done. We have focused on, and our focus is whatever technology we adopt, we must get into that. Yes, we'll not be experts like the OEM. Then again, we are the experts of our process. So how to adopt and how to adapt and how to extract the benefit out of that technology from within the organization, focusing on pain and gain points and continually improving on that is a thing that is inherent in the organization, which has helped us adapt very well to technology solutions. Thank you for now.
Thank you. I think you mentioned some of the topics very specific to proactive or predictive maintenance that's supported. At the same time, the CRM part, customer relationship management, that improved a lot by implementing a lot of these digital solutions. So let me just come back to this topic. Maybe let's also discuss some of the use cases. Maybe one of the impactful use case, that actually giving some testimony for a digital transformation that is happening either in utility industry or specific to your own business. Let me start with you then. Very high level, if you can talk about one of the use case that is highlighting a digital transformation journey, either related with technology, process, or you mentioned about organizational change, anything. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, there are many. In fact, many. Let me choose one item which I have not spoken of. Numerical relays, protective relays. We are installing at every discom. Suppose these days it is only numerical relay. These are communicable relays. But how many discoms are having this communication utilized? So our 100% numerical relay, there are electromechanical relays still in the circuit, but majority is now gradually into numerical relay. We have all these numerical relays networked into a control center. And now let's get back to the problem first. What used to happen if there is a 33 kV outage? It is true for 611 kV as well, but 33 kV and above, if there is an outage, then through SCADA, our control room gets to know what has happened. They would manually note down and transmit what are the relays that have operated at both ends or multiple ends if it's an interconnected system. This is to be, these informations were fed to our expert team, who would decide which circuit is faulty and would give them advice to restore, and they would restore from remote. Okay, fine. Now the amount of time that is required for to get all those inputs and then decide and act is now not tolerable by the customers. So what we have done, at every numerical relay, we have in-house developed, irrespective of the make. That's the beauty. Every numerical relay will have its wave record and will have its operational triggers sent to a mobile on the go for the experts. They need not be tethered to their offices or their control rooms. And they get to know what has happened. What is the wave record? Is there a primary fault? Can you see a fault current? You take a decision, advise the system operations team to switch on or switch off what is required. This is true with disturbance recorders. This is true with PMUs, phasor monitor measurement units, and we are able to do it in the blink of an eye, almost blink of an eye. So, I mean, this is something, I mean, the good use or the total use of numerical relay that we are doing. So this is one. The other, if time permits, can I maybe add on to something,
sure,
or I wait?
Please go ahead.
This SCADA, I talked of SCADA a lot of times at this particular session. But you saw this, with SCADA, we have definitely eliminated a lot of delays. Now, with time, we felt that the RMUs, there are plenty of nodes where RMUs need to be automated. So there were RMUs, and these RMUs were automated, and from remote you can operate. So this is the next change that happened. But beyond that also, we felt that the network needs to be self-healing. Means, if there is a 30 kV substation and there are 2 feeds and there are numerical relays there, and there are multiple 611 kV networks on the outgoing side, if there is a fault on a particular side, the incoming side, there has to be a self-healing combination. What you are indeed thinking in terms of analyzing and giving a decision which one to switch off and which one to switch on. Why can't the relay do it for us? So this self-healing network has been designed, and now within a few seconds, maybe within 6 seconds, the supply is restored with all those PLC-based logics put in. So this is again a transformation that has happened. Yes, we have not scaled it to 100% of stations. There are certain technical limitations but we are going ahead with that. So self-healing is something. Think of a scenario when people used to go there and operate a switch to restore a supply. Now the relays locally are intelligent electronic devices, they are doing it. So this is the level of use case that we are doing. And again, I think this is one of the first of its kind in India that we have employed. Thank you for now.
Excellent. So, Amit, I think Udayan also mentioned a lot about interlinking IT, OT, and at the same time, you are living, and of course, your team very closely working with a lot of utility companies, very specific to APM. Let it be asset overview, data insights, and giving a lot of prescriptive, predictive maintenance solutions. So, Amit, in your point of view, it's a key player in IT/OT space. Can you brief some of the engagements for handling these customer challenges?
Sure. So let me talk about a couple of areas in this whole digitalization space where we are doing some very interesting work. So one of that is the asset transparency using IoT and cloud technology. And when I say asset transparency, this is at a much granular level than a typical SCADA, which we all know. All utilities have that since years. So this is at a much finer granular level. To give you an example, we are working with a utility in the eastern part of India. It's a water utility where we are all of their pumps are IoT enabled, and the data is collected in the real-time basis from all the pumps. All critical information like the pressure and any kind of a leakage and downtime, etc., is collected on real-time basis, stored securely in a managed cloud, and there is a live dashboard which is available to the utilities to have a complete overview of their entire water distribution. So far, it was they never had that kind of a transparency up to a pump level, where they can plan for the predictive maintenance, where they can know some leakage is happening, and they can prevent any kind of a leakage, and this helps them to give a far more reliable water supply to their customers, and also can do a lot of preventive maintenance stuff based on the data collected, which so far they were not able to do. So this is also a very good example of technology with purpose. I think a lot of water conservation will also happen as a result of this. So, and another example within this is also the street light automation. That's also next level of the transparency for the electric utilities, where we have done some interesting work also with in Bangalore with Bescom, and also some of the utilities in the northeastern India, where the similar thing we take it to all the electrical poles across the city, across the state. So this is one area. The second area of engagement using technology, I'm focusing more on that, is using virtual reality and mixed reality to solve some very interesting problems. So currently we are working with a large the power producer in India, where we are developing a VR virtual reality based training modules for training their engineers on the turbines. It's very difficult for, especially in this COVID times, and otherwise also, to bring all the new engineers in front of the turbine and give them the training. So using this solution, by using the VR headsets, they can do precisely the same operations which they would do in front of an actual turbine. Up to the each nut and bolt level, they can open, close, and everything is simulated just like they are in front of the actual turbines. And we have also used this more of a mixed reality for augmented operations of switchgear. So there we also did some interesting work with CESC, by the way, a couple of years back, where using a mixed reality, either it can be on the mobile app or again using a VR headset, an engineer can do the maintenance of a switchgear by precisely following certain steps. And what can happen is that a more experienced engineer sitting at the control center will have a digital twin of this whatever ring main unit or any kind of a switch gear, and he can guide the other engineer who's in front of the switch gear to do precisely the steps, and they're both looking at the same thing on their mobile app, or if they have the VR headsets. So this also augmented operations and maintenance can be much more faster. You don't need to fly your the experts to every place with the help of this. So these are a couple of examples where we are engaged and using technology to solve really critical problems.
Thank you so much, Amit. And very interesting use case you mentioned, the remote simulated training models with a mixed reality. So, I mean, it's a very promising use case in this pandemic time. I mean, a lot of utility companies, not only utility companies, any of the manufacturing companies also can use this. Thank you so much for that. And quick time check, and I request all the online, people who joined in this discussion, feel free to add your questions. I can see some of the questions here, so feel free to add it. We will take up some questions in next 10 minutes. Let's quickly get into the last session of this, or the business model concept here. So if you look into business models, it's very challenging now for a lot of utility, or almost all the utility companies. Like multiple models are emerging, something like a consumer owned model. So the utility will be an aggregator and or an EPC provider, or utility owned model, or something like a third party owned model. Let it be for all type of grid related activity. Maybe Rajiv, coming to you, the specific topic. The consumers are moving from asset focus to service focus, something like energy as a service concept now, correct? Maybe it will come in another couple of years, like what Amit mentioned, in 2025 or 2026. It could be EaaS model, energy as a service. Now, what are the business models shaping in this line, and what are the constraints here, according to you, Rajiv?
No, to be frank, right now a lot of things are being evaluated at various levels within the utilities and working out what type of model will be okay, because uh, data are coming. Say it is a smart meter, then EV is coming up. You have got energy as a service you rightly mentioned. Renewables is coming up. So there are multiple permutation combinations, and accordingly, utilities are working out what type of model will be best fitted to them. Because ultimately, one customer will be availing multiple services. He might, and then you need to provide him something wherein he gets common experience across all the services. You cannot give him different experience, be it online, be it offline, or for one service or another service. So these are the areas which are more focused, and based on that, the business model, how the revenue will be realized, how this thing, it's all being worked out. And then at the same time, government is also driving the separate retail business, separate wires, separate lines, and retailing. So these are all things are also coming up. But I see that in next 1 year or so, there will be a lot of clarity which will emerge. And once the clarity will emerge with regulation point of view, then the new business models will be getting tested, because utility being a regulatory model, that they cannot have their own business model. They have to depend upon regulatory constraint. So that's one of the important thing. And another is like a smart meter also. Like even if we are talking about smart meter today, we need to have TOD kind of billing. The customers to start using the electricity when it is off peak hours. So those things are also depending upon the regulator. So utility industry has a lot of areas where they can bring the innovation into the business model. And once the government node regulatory concurrence and everything is available, they will definitely work on this.
Thanks, Rajiv. I think regulatory constraints we need to look forward and how it is changing. Yeah, of course. Maybe Udain, coming to you, like if you look into the epicenter customer, then we have resources, then we have our own employees. So all stakeholders will be part of this transformation journey. Yeah. So any business constraints, that is hindering innovation that is happening in this industry?
Yes, definitely. But I will be very brief here. Firstly, whatever technology you do, I keep on repeating this. Either there has to be value for the customer, or there has to be an efficiency increase. So this is one aspect that we need to be very careful when we deploy technology.
Yep.
Yes, regular tariff revision is a constraint. I'm talking of various discoms. So every year, or maybe there has to be a periodicity in tariff revision. This is something I see as an issue. Customer must see value. This is very important. The customer focus that we must see. Sometimes we tend to ignore. Agility of a discom is something. I mean, that's the need of the hour. So these are constraints as you go various silos. Not talking silos. Too much talking silos. Things delivery getting delayed, and availability of competence. So these are the very brief things that I feel that business wise our journey or our improvement or innovation journey may get impeded. This is like a small r in an ohmic circuit, not the capital R, the internal resistances.
Excellent. I think agility and adaptability, very key points, and availability of competency and capabilities. Siemens Advant Amit is already there. I'm just kidding. So definitely they can support you there. So let me come back to the last session of this topic, that is nothing but challenges and opportunity. So let me read out some of the statistics. By 2023, most of the utility, I'm just reading some of the articles that is recently published from McKinsey. Utilities will have a predictive or prescriptive maintenance activity, which means 90% of their critical assets will be controlled through a predictive or prescriptive maintenance topic. By 2025, 95% of the utilities will be invested in edge analytics, or they are concentrating more on cyber security topics and more on electrification computing, like what Amit mentioned, more on the cloud centric containerization. And it will improve operational excellence and best optimization of the assets. So, very brief, then looking into these scenarios, what are the challenges and opportunities you are foreseeing? Say, for example, it could be regulatory, it could be competition, maybe macroeconomic, or geopolitical issues. But I know we are running out of time, but in a very brief.
To be very precise, I have listed out the opportunities that I see. Privatization is an opportunity for us. New revenue stream creation, leveraging technology, like behind the meter value-added services, etc. Data-driven insights, low disaggregation. I'm not getting into the details. And we need to be, there is an opportunity to be a lean and a trim discom with digitalization, the efficiency improvement. These are the opportunities. And there are challenges, a few challenges as well. If time permits, I can highlight as well.
Please. Yeah.
As I've already mentioned, timely tariff revision is a challenge. Cost reflective tariff, the subsidization, cross subsidy and other things. This is a challenge. Availability of competence, I keep on repeating. This is a challenge. And obviously, environmental support. You know what I mean. I mean, there has to be an environmental support as well going forward. That's all for now.
Very valid points, and hopefully we will be having solutions for these challenges, and we have solutions, I know, but as you rightly mentioned, it will evolve. Better solutions. Rajiv, if you look into the value chain, what you are having, say like generation, transmission, distribution, of course, retail, it could be a virtual utility or as a product innovator. So what are the challenges you are envisioning, and how do you want to collaborate with the OEMs or the digital transformation companies like Siemens Advanta? Rajiv, I think you are.
Yeah. So I think there will be always challenge in any journey you undertake. There will be always challenge, and how you take the challenges and convert into the opportunities, and use your creativity, problem solving, whatever you call it. That's where we believe as a company. And I foresee there are some of the areas where I think needs focus is a change management, where people need to be trained, because people have been working in a specific environment. The technology is changing very fast. Technology benefits are there. So based on that, the changes with respect to people mindset, changes with respect to the existing processes, how the new process will be reflected. So these are the challenges. And on top of this, the security challenges. Earlier, it was restricted to only IT domain, and IT was more on looking at physical security and IT security, and then focusing on that and doing specific required for security. But then IT, OT getting mixed, and the OT becoming more and more critical infrastructure of the country. So one has to look at how do you ensure that IT, OT are mixed, technology leverage, and at the same time, security is not compromised.
Thanks, Rajiv. I think very key points. Learning and learning, as you rightly mentioned, and there is a cultural shift ideally. Then process adaptability. Of course, security we need to look into more, keeping in mind of this IT OT scenario. So Amit, let me come back to you with respect to this topic. Technology and innovation will continue to be an enabler, for the future growth of any companies or even utility companies. So what are the challenges and opportunities in your perspective?
Yeah, just to carry forward, I think Rajiv covered them pretty well. Opportunities are enormous because of the kind of changes. I think there is no limit to the kind of opportunities. I think all the utilities have to look closely at their IT OT landscape and see that how they need to adapt, not in a piecemeal manner, but how to do it efficiently, looking at the kind of energy transition which is happening over the next decade. So I think that's a huge opportunity for each utility to not look at a shorter vision of a piecemeal each solution, but in a much more holistic manner. In here, of course, within Siemens Advanta, we have also separate consulting unit which can sit with utilities, define problem statements, and look at a much wider perspective. So And apart from that, just to give a slightly different perspective, I think this is also a great opportunity for utilities to also streamline and digitalize their internal processes, right? Because, and not only utilities, I think vendors alike, like Siemens does, because see, you cannot go to your customers and say that we will solve or we'll give you the best experience or we'll solve your, the digitalization problem unless your own internally, your all the processes are not fully digitalized. For example, utilities, I'm sure there are data silos existing within them in different departments. How these data silos should be, bridged. So this is also an opportunity to look internally for both utilities and vendors alike to look at their own internal digitalized process and whether they are digitalized enough or not to give that kind of experience to their customers, right? And other than that, in terms of opportunities. Just to give a perspective outside, what Siemens is doing, I found a very good example of the whole new business models emerging as a result of this. So there are companies who are doing, storage as a service. We know SaaS as a software as a service, and there's a whole new definition of a storage as a service, where the companies are there who come and install batteries at your premises, mostly large commercial or industrial premises, and they charge when the tariff is high, and then when the tariff is low, and then they provide the power when the tariff is high, and they don't charge you anything for the battery infrastructure. They only take a percentage of the tariff which you are saving as a result of this. So these are kind of opportunities, I think, which are emerging across. Uh, and talking of challenges, I think Rajiv mentioned very well in terms of cybersecurity is a huge challenge given the sensitivity of the data and the regulations under which utilities operate. So all aspects of cybersecurity, whether it is access-based control, or role-based access control, or encrypted communication. So these are some things which are well built into the design and development process of Siemens. And one last challenge I would also mention is also the interoperability. As we move towards more modular solutions, as we discussed earlier, I'm sure utility would like to have best from all different vendors and still want these to work together. So interoperability is also another challenge, I think, which all vendors like OEMs and Siemens is at the forefront in terms of complying with all the standards and protocols, industry protocols, so that anything which is provided can seamlessly work with different components.
Thanks, Amit. I'm extremely super excited with the concept of storage as a service. Yeah, it's very very interesting. See, by 2030, imagine our streets are fully electric vehicles. Yeah, and maybe we are changing completely into induction cooking. We need more electricity. So there is a high chance our grid may explode with this. I'm just wondering. So definitely there is solutions. Yeah, we are looking into this, and it is coming from utilities, and it is coming from OEMs, it is coming from the technology partners like Siemens Advanda. So I'm super excited with this topic now. Let me just go back to a couple of questions. Very interesting question now. One of the question that is looking into the established utility companies, digital transformation is a top-down centric, or should it start from shop floor? Very nice. Let me put it over to you then, because you are living with a sustainability, a company which is more than 100 years old. So should it start from a top down, or it should start from a shop floor?
The vision is definitely top driven. A. B. Yes, there are certain directives. Like I have a directive, I have to think something beyond the meter. Now I'm exploring various options and I'm deep diving it. My team is working on it. Someday I'll come out with something. So this is top driven. A. B. C is yes. The simple, very simple example is we had got hold of our AMR system maybe some 15 years back, And the whole idea was to get the billing readings of high-end customers and the customers and the DTs once a month, maybe. Now we felt that there is immense potential, because once it is only DT metering, it is people talk about only energy auditing, but DT metering opens up a plethora of options. Our DTs are now polling all those meters. Our meters of the DTs are being polled every hour. We have the profiles of loading, power factor, what not, every day. We are swapping the DTs where there is overloading with underloaded DTs. We are removing very underloaded DTs. We have identified which all DTs can be availed of when there is a shutdown or a power outage. So the whole journey, the various silos have taken benefit out of it. So in a nutshell, this has been possible because at the ground level we envisioned a lot of things, and slowly we sipped into the various silos, and now it is really a transformation story. So it has to be both ways. This is my answer. This has been with CSC. Thank you.
Yeah, so the vision should come from top, and of course, the participation of all the stakeholders only we can implement this. Maybe Rajiv, what do you think? What is your opinion?
So it's a very interesting question. It is like a chicken or egg, kind of thing. See, normally the digital transformation, all the initiative and drives comes from the top, as rightly said by Udyan, as a part of the vision, and then they is at a board level or at the top level, they think what we should do, because digital transformation is not just for the sake of doing the digitization. It is more of the digital and building the new strength. What can happen, the five forces model of the competition landscape and all the stuff. So how it will work, and how do we ensure that we are competitive, we continue generating revenue, we be in the business sustainable. So I think that should come from the top, and at the same time, when the mandate is coming from top, the people within the organization so start contributing, and then start leveraging this and leveraging the technology, and then work together to provide a digital solution to the organization. I think that's what I feel.
Thanks, Rajiv. Amit, over to you.
I think it has to be a mix of both. I agree. It has to start at the top in terms of looking at the much wider view of the entire IT OT landscape, as we discussed, because the utilities they have a lot of legacy. These systems, the grid infrastructure was developed over decades, and so it cannot be purely piecemeal from the bottom up. Of course, there can be certain ideas, but largely, from my point of view, it has to be, especially if you have to respond to this energy transition which we talked about over the next several years. I think it has to start at the top. Then obviously the execution and some missing pieces have to come from the bottom. But in my opinion, largely it has to be from top.
Thanks, Amit. Maybe I will take up one more question. So a lot of digitalization innovations have happened in last few years, across industries. So we are talking about a digitalization. That's great. Is there a way to measure the success of transformation outcomes? Is there something called a digitalization barometer? Yeah, it's quite interesting. Maybe Rajiv, go ahead. In your experience, is there a possibility to measure and some outcomes?
Yeah, see, definitely, because see that there has to be certain KPIs which has to be in place to measure the investment made into the digitalization. The KPIs can be in terms of customer service, turnaround time, customer satisfaction level, reduction into the cost, operational efficiency, various processes, whatever has been turnaround time. Like say, if you take up bill processing process. And in the bill processing, if you try to use the RPA or you want to deploy the IPA, how much time you have saved, how much invoices you are processing, in so many people, how many days it was taking, and now how much days you are processing. So these are all parameters, and ultimately then it resulting into how does it translate into the shareholder value, or improving the top line, or improving the bottom line and earning per share kind of thing. So these are all KPIs which are there, and without KPIs, I think it is just an investment and no measure of that.
Thanks,
That's
Rajiv.
very important.
Thanks. Amit, quickly to you, according to you, what are the parameters?
It can be done in two ways. One is the the hard cost saving, right, which Rajiv mentioned. There are KPIs, and also Udyan mentioned earlier in terms of the response time that ultimately is also boils down to the cost saving. So one is a hard measure. The other is also the experience you give to your customers, right? The quality of service, the power quality, or any kind of a the quality of service which which a customer experiences. So that is also a huge measure of how digitalization is impacting, and that definitely should not be the underestimated, because that's ultimately which leads to customers staying with you. Now customers do have choice in India also slowly of switching their provider. So definitely both ways, there are ways. Ultimately, no one is going to invest in digitalization.
Exactly, you are right. Udyan?
Yes, with examples, definitely the DT metering, we've invested around 10 crores, but we are saving on the number of DTs being procured over the years. So this is getting me the ROI. However, we used to take around 4 hours to restore a feeder if it has developed a fault. Now we are doing it in 20 minutes. We have deployed lots and lots of RMUs. We've automated them. We have done self-healing network. So it has a cost, but there is no ROI as such. But then again, there is immense customer value. So, I mean, the metrics for each and every case, you have your own metrics to understand what is the benefit that you are reaping from. Without a benefit, nobody would invest. That's for sure.
Excellent. Then, thank you so much. And let me conclude the session, and I will hand it over to Suman. Before that, I would say let's write the webs of transformation, digital transformation. One of the answer for this challenge will be, of course, technology adaptations in the right areas. All of us mentioned. So speed and agility will be the bread and butter of our journey, but adaptability is the key. That is most important. How we are adapting. So with this, I really enjoyed the session, and thank you so much to all of you, and thank you all the online participants. We have a lot of questions, but because of the time constraint, we are not able to take up all the questions. So Suman, over to you for the concluding sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Unni, for this in summary. I truly believe it was a powerful discussion, and why not so when you're talking about the power and utility segment, and brilliant insights by Uday, Amit, and Rajiv. Rajiv had a hard stop, so he had to drop out, but significant contributions from all of you. It's sad that we try to sum up everything within a session of 90 minutes, but it's as much as we could talk about. And I'm sure the audience thought that the discussion was really insightful, and some of the questions being answered also tried to cover the broader areas around digitalization. So thank you so much, and thank you to the audience for taking the time out and attending our session today. I would like to say that we have to keep on bringing out this kind of sessions when we talk about more application use cases, business cases, and just not the general knowledge and gyan that we always talk about when we talk about these kind of areas. Having said that, I would like to say have a great weekend and stay safe, everyone. We still have the new scare of Omicron variant that is coming, so it's not yet ended, it seems. So just when we were all thinking of opening up everything and going free, I will again see you on the 17th of December, wrapping up the digital conversation for this year. And that's again on another important topic, which is the need of water twins in the Indian context, wherein we will talk about solving water-related challenges and problems through engineering and technology to create a sustainable and better India. With that, I want to say goodbye and stay safe. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.